Okay, everybody, let's get back to where we stopped. In Unit 7, we're working on love, and more precisely on how different types of art, like literature or painting or cinema or poetry, all these different types of arts can express love. In what ways and what they show about love. So, if you remember, in the first lesson, we focused on one of the most famous plays about love, which is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. This is the story of young people from opposing families who are fighting against each other because of an ancient grudge. And these two young people, Romeo and Juliet, fall in love at first sight. But it's a forbidden and hopeless love. We used it to illustrate passionate but also doomed love. And we focused on the play because in the play, the use of the monologues is crucial. It enables the viewer to understand the strength of Romeo and Juliet's love. Indeed, since it's a secret love, they can't talk in the play to any other character about it. So the monologues are the only way for them to express their feelings. And that's in these monologues that we understand that Romeo feels love and fascination for Juliet, and Juliet feels despair and sadness because she understands that it's going to be complicated. Right, so that was the first lesson. Then, in the second lesson, we focused on a completely different situation. We focused on two artworks. The first was a painting by Hogarth. The second was a novel by Jane Austen. And both of them illustrated what we call loveless marriages. Okay? So, in the loveless marriages were common in the past. Young people were getting married because they had to preserve their family's fortune. And the two documents that you studied denounced this practice through both satire and caricature. So, for example, in the painting by Hogarth, the painter denounces an ill-matched marriage, which is settled in the name of money. And what he does with the art of painting is first use the postures. He sets the groom and the bride turning their back on each other to show that they don't know each other, they don't love each other, and they are actually trapped together. The second thing he uses is the organization of the painting. So they are sitting in a corner so that the visual focus is not fathers who are actually settling the marriage deal. And the last thing is the visual caricature. The fathers are real caricature of rich aristocrats. They're very fat. They're wearing very garish and expensive clothes. I mean, it's obvious. And you clearly understand that they care only about their money. So the painter is using satire and caricature to show their greed and to show that they are actually forcing their children to marry someone from their own social class, but which are someone whom they don't love, to preserve their fortune. So Hogarth uses visual tools to criticize this situation. In Pride and Prejudice, so first, the situation is a bit different because Mr. Collins is actually the one who proposes to Lizzie. He's not forced to marry her by his family. However, he also does it in the name of money. So what Jane Austen does to denounce this is that first, she uses the love declaration, which is ridiculous and comical because there's clearly a gap between the tone and the posture of the man. In the movie, it's obvious, and what he says. Like, he says that he's like deeply in love, but he says it in a very boring tone. It's also expressed in the novel. The second thing he does, which is clearly ridiculous is to list a whole list of reasons why they should get married, and he doesn't mention his feelings. And the last thing that is used by Austen in the novel, which is similar to what Hogarth uses, is the caricature. Here, the most caricatural character is Mrs. Bennet, who's very excited by Colin's arrival because she's convinced that one of her daughters is going to marry him. And she is clearly ridiculed by the way she's described. And she's ridiculed indirectly by the character of Mr. Bennet, who doesn't care at all about what she says. So the fact that he doesn't care makes her even more ridiculous. And finally, the narrator uses irony. That's very common with Jane Austen. And when she starts the text with, it's a truth universally acknowledged that a man should want to get married, well, she doesn't believe it, clearly. So this is irony, and very subtle irony, so that people are going to read what she writes, but understand what she means later. Okay? So here you have two other forms of art, painting and a novel, which use humor here to talk about love. In the first lesson, we had a play which used tragedy and sadness and humor. And next time, we'll see something different. Bye!